stretch of a finger to turn it on. And when I went to the living room, I found that it had been turned completely off. I looked around and I didn't see anyone. So I turned it back on and I went back to the bedroom. I tried to put a shoebox with photos in it on top of a shelf in the closet. And as soon as I shoved it up there, the lid flew off and across the closet. And I'm like, when little things happen like this, you don't really buy into it yet. You're just like, weird, but you keep moving on. And while I was moving things, I started to hear mice running around in the ceilings, in the walls, which was just like annoying and gross, but it's really common in this area in old houses. But when I started putting things away in a bathroom cabinet, I heard this nasty, low, dying animal growl in the wall. It startled me. I couldn't explain what it was. And this happened several times. Anytime I would hit something against the wall, I would hear it, and I was like, what is this? So far, these little things were uncomfortable, unexplainable, but you could feel some kind of energy building, like an unwelcomed. You felt very unwelcome in this house. The next morning, we started on the giant mess in the garage. We filled our truck with 2 or 3 bedfuls of junk, just like junk. I don't even know where these people got it. Has to be like previous tenants' junk too. And we paid to drive it 30 minutes away each time to the landfill, which added up. And that night we brought our husky dog to the house. We were driving up the hill to the house and he started freaking out and yelping and acting really nervous before we even got into the driveway. We had to drag him inside and he was really quiet at that point and observant. His ears